Democrats. Today is Thursday, November 2nd, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Thursday. So I got all caught up yesterday with telling you what the first was. Yesterday was the first day of Native American Heritage Month, and it was the day that a lot of our bills went into effect. But I forgot to mention that it was the kickoff of open enrollment. So if you purchase your insurance on the exchange, or if you're looking for new insurance and looking for a way to do that, the exchange is open. And it goes through December 15th. So you have time now. You have time now to log on and purchase you some insurance. We all need to be covered. Oklahoma ranks way too low on the number of people who are covered by insurance. We can change that by folks going out and getting insurance on the exchange. So that's today. Let's see, where do I want to start? There's so much going on. There's so much going on. I don't know where to start. So maybe I should talk about. Maybe I should talk about the fact that our superintendent of public instruction, we talked about this last year, that he had several months of unfiled ethics reports, which resulted in fees. I think that the ethics commission hates to call them fines, but for those of us who's ever had to pay them, we consider them to be fines because they are fees for failing to file your reports timely. There are fees for filing it incorrectly. There are all kinds of challenges. So he was faced with a lot of fees for filing late, for filing reports that did not match up. And then most recently, he still hasn't gotten his reports together. And now we are in November. He's been in office for a year. His election was over a year ago, and he's still struggling. And there's a $5,000 amount that he failed to report altogether because there were folks who were pushing HB 1775, which is the bill that is being pushed to basically limit what history we report. And so that's kind of a big deal. So I think it feels like, I don't want to assign motives because I do not know how that man thinks, but it feels a little fishy that he's been hammered on about filing his reports, and they're still having to drag him out little bit by little bit because he's not filing the right reports. I am so sorry. I'm so distracted today because there's so much going on in the background. It's kind of a crazy day. So I wanted to talk about that. So it's ironic that news hit today on the same day that our governor announced his task force. And I'm not even going to bother you with the long, ridiculous name of this task force, but this task force that is designed to make sure that that election integrity in Oklahoma remains at the high standard that it is. Why do we need a task force for that if it's already at a high standard? To maintain the high standard that it is, and to make sure that campaign finances are being filed appropriately. Here's the thing. They are being filed appropriately and they are being monitored, or else we would not know about this amount that the superintendent of public instruction did not report. That information comes out because of the reports. But the governor is still it's only been a year. His feelings are still a little bit hurt because his opponent, there was a lot of money poured in by outside organizations, in-state organizations, just in organizations he didn't like, outside organizations supporting his opponent. Now, those organizations were set up legally and they did what they were supposed to legally. No, there is no evidence, because I haven't seen it all. There is no evidence, or no evidence has been uncovered that the money came from out of the country, which is he's trying to hint at, or any of that kind of jazz. But he's mad. He's mad because someone raised a lot of money in a race that he was in on the other side. Do not get it twisted. A lot of money was raised by outside entities for our governor. And the Republican National Convention came into Oklahoma from out of state and spent money for our governor. And so he's just mad because money got spent against him. And so now we have this made up task force that he said who was going to be on the task force. And it sounded like a partisan task force to me when he named who by title. He didn't name names and he didn't say Republican, but by title, it's an overwhelmingly Republican task force. It's not designed to answer any questions. It's not designed to find anything. It's designed for him to be able to go on TV and release press releases saying he's doing something about it. I am so exhausted by our governor and his insistence on participating in cosplay at every turn. But I'm not an elected official. How about we hear from our Thursday elected official, Representative Mickey Dollens.
Hey, Alicia.
Hey, Mickey, how are you?
Okay. Got intro music? Okay, that's pretty nice. I'm so embarrassed. Yeah, I'll keep playing it. No, I'm kidding.
So did you hear what I was talking about? Do you know about the governor's task force on campaign integrity, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I do. And it sounds like a personal vendetta. Whenever, oftentimes when Republicans have something that happens to them personally, all of a sudden they come very invested in it. And this is no different. We see that the governor, like you said, with dark money and 505, what are they? C4s? Yeah, those type of deals. But, I think that a lot of Oklahomans, in general, support that transparency. But let's talk about the things that really matter when it comes to transparency, like allowing the Secretary of Education to review budget documents and being stonewalled at every turn by State Superintendent Ryan Walters. I just did an interview today on KFOR on this very issue, and it's just a tragedy. She has a job that she wanted to do, and she was eager to dive in after receiving the report from State Auditor Byrd. She wanted to see exactly where taxpayer dollars were going and how the State Department of Education was allotting these dollars, allocating these dollars. And numerous requests to the state superintendent went unanswered, and she eventually resigned. And so we have a situation where this person was appointed by the governor, yet we don't hear the governor supporting the person he appointed to this job, where she just wants to do her due diligence. If you really care about transparency, stand up for the person you appointed and demand that Ryan Walters turn over the budget documents that she requested. It just makes no sense. And unfortunately, there's a pattern there.
Well, I think it's rich that he used to be the secretary of the Department of Education. And so he understands the importance. However, or maybe he doesn't, because when he was the secretary, we had, I'm going to say, a mismanagement of the funds. I'm not accusing anybody of stealing anything, be clear about that. But there was clearly a mismanagement of funds. And now the Attorney General is saying we have to send back $18 million of GEAR funds because of how poorly it was handled when he was the secretary of the Department of Education.
Yeah, and that's not a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. That is a matter of fact that the state auditor revealed that there was misappropriations in her GEAR audit. And unfortunately, it's like it is so many times, oh, we messed up, let's move on. But no, where's that money going to come from? The rainy day fund? Is it going to come straight from, taxpayer dollars? Like, where's this going to come from? Is anyone going to have to face any budget cuts? And, to just sweep it under the rug is not getting at the bigger issue, which is not providing documents that should have been provided in the first place without question.
I was gonna say, I feel like you said, this is a pattern, right? When he was the secretary of the Department of Education, there was a mismanagement, a mishandling. Let's call it a mishandling of the GEAR funds, right? And a lack of transparency. Now he's the superintendent of public instruction, and he's not sharing information with the folks in his department. A lack of transparency, right? And then on top of that, his campaign finance reports are kind of a mess because of a lack of transparency.
Yeah, and whether this is intentional or not, there's really no excuse. And if it's not intentional, then it just speaks volumes of his ability to, or lack thereof, to govern and to lead and to do what is required by that position. One thing that Oklahomans want is accountability, transparency, and to do your job. And I'm in Tulsa today meeting with principals in multiple different schools, and they've all said the same thing. And these are, some of them are Republican and have always voted Republican, but they also have never had a elected official just blatantly, just so nonchalantly be so proud to not fulfill their duties. It's a derelict of duty. And that was one of the reasons why we asked Speaker McCall to allow for a nonpartisan, you could say a bipartisan, investigative committee to just bring all of these facts together and to decide together as a state legislature if they warranted a further review of initiating the impeachment process. And we weren't even allowed to consider it. Speaker McCall shut that down before we could even begin a conversation. And that's not right. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, Oklahomans deserve better than that.
And that's the both sides of it, right? So clearly our current superintendent of public instruction isn't living up to the job that he was elected to do. And there should be checks and balances where the legislature can review the job that he's doing, and that got shut down.
Yep, that's one of the processes in place. And, there's only 9 states that have an election recall process. Oklahoma is not one of them. We're still very fortunate in that we have the ballot initiative process and we have the veto referendum, 2 forms of direct democracy. But the one thing that we are missing is the election recall. So even though there's many Oklahomans in the state who are dissatisfied with the performance that State Superintendent Ryan Walters has done so far, it's been almost a year and we still hear excuses blaming the previous administration. Unfortunately, there's no route that just an ordinary citizen can take in holding our elected officials accountable. And that falls on us as state representatives, as state senators. But unfortunately, we have been prohibited from even having that conversation. And I just want to say thank you to House Minority Leader Cindy Munson for having the leadership to initiate and to write a very convincing letter to the speaker saying this deserves investigation. Let's assemble a bipartisan committee to look into it. We're not saying anyone's guilty. We just want to look into it. And that was prohibited. But it was a great effort on Leader Munson's part for initiating that process.
As always, I am constantly applauding the work of the House Democrats in Oklahoma, because you guys work very hard, elevating issues, demanding accountability, and fighting for all of Oklahoma. So I want to say thank you to you, and thank you to Leader Munson for those efforts. It's just, like I said, I think it's a little bit rich that the governor is now, calling on transparency and improving a process where, here's an example where he could enforce it amongst his ranks. And it's as if it's not even happening. If you ask the governor, he's acting like it's not happening right under his nose.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. And I have to also say that you're doing a great job with the Oklahoma State Democratic Party. I was curious, how did the end of your tour go around rural Oklahoma, and what is your top two takeaways from your tour?
So the tour was incredibly interesting and energizing. Just to be honest, going into places that I normally go into for a meeting where there are 5 or 6 people, but everywhere we landed on our tour, there were tons of Democrats who were there, ready to hear what the Democratic message was and to tell us that they are ready to get engaged and ready to be involved and want Democrats elected all over the state. So the tour went really well. I think it was very well received. People are asking for another tour. But since I've been back, I have been at least once a week going to meetings in rural Oklahoma for places that I didn't get to stop. And there's an energy, Rep. Dollens, there's an energy all over the state where Democrats are ready for a change. And that makes me feel like doing this makes a difference.
Oh, it definitely is. And you can tell that change is really rising to the surface with as many people as we've already had announced their candidacy for the 2024 elections. Everyone who's considered it and who has actually committed to it, we thank you, and we know that's no easy task, but it's a testament to getting the word out there, knowing that the party has their back and that there is a pathway forward, and every seat should go contested.
Absolutely. And I feel like people are getting that message. So we'll see. I feel like we're a little bit ahead of where we were this time 2 years ago with candidate recruitment. So I'm kind of excited about that.
Me too.
So let me ask your opinion as an elected official who knows what's going on in the world. What are your thoughts about our governor partnering with the governor for Texas and going to Israel?
Well, I don't have any problems with supporting and doing that. However, why couldn't that have been accomplished via Zoom call? We've got an economic issue here with Michelin. When I first heard about that, of course, we know that the plane ride over there, along with the governor's administration, was likely funded with the taxpayer dollars. How many school lunches could that trip have afforded for Oklahoma students? What are some essential services that we could have done, and what are some good things that we could have done in our communities with the amount of money that it took to go over there and take a picture? And so with today's technological advancements, having that meeting, and I'm sure the governor's there to support and show camaraderie, I think could have been accomplished via Zoom call.
Well, I too stand in solidarity with Israel, right? I want it over because it's gotten ugly and bloody, but I stand in solidarity. And for me, my challenge with it is, one, why is our governor putting himself in harm's way unnecessarily? Two, what is the governor of Oklahoma adding to the conversation with regards to the conflict? And three, why is he spending the money? Those are my issues. I respect that he has beliefs and he wants to demonstrate his beliefs. I don't have a problem with that. I am challenged to understand why his solidarity needed to be shown by going there.
It's a great question. What is the governor of Oklahoma adding to the conversation by flying there?
By flying there with another controversial governor, frankly.
Yeah. And I look forward to reading up on this and learning more. But I would hope that journalists ask him that question.
I hope so, too. And I hope that he's not using the conflict to elevate his name, to elevate his profile.
Exactly. And what other governors? Was it just Abbott and Stitt? Were there other governors who joined them? That's the question, too.
Well, the press release said those two governors. The photo that I saw were those two governors. Yep. And selfishly, I care about, how about we not put my governor, regardless of what I think about his leadership, he's still the governor of my state. Why put my governor in harm's way unnecessarily?
Exactly. And that begs the question now, Governor, well, Lieutenant Governor Pinnell is now the acting presiding governor. That is if he's in the state of Oklahoma. We had a situation just a few months ago where the governor left the state. The lieutenant governor was gone, but no one notified Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat. And over 24 hours had passed, and there wasn't a person in Oklahoma who was acting as governor or who knew they were acting as governor. And there was a crisis. I believe it was right here in Tulsa where there was a terrible storm. And to his credit, Senate President Pro Tem Treat, when he learned that he was the acting governor, he immediately went into action and started doing the things that a great governor should do and helping the people of Oklahoma. So it would be interesting to see who is our current governor in Oklahoma right now.
And if they know it.
And if they know it. That's right.
Yeah, I was caught up in that. I was caught up in that tragedy in June when we didn't have someone who knew that they were governor. Let's hope that they learned that lesson, and whoever's the acting governor knows that they are.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, did you have anything you wanted to share with the people of Oklahoma?
Well, I know that just we're getting ready for bill filing. So I've heard from a lot of constituents and advisors who have come forth with good ideas, whether it be for housing or harm reduction and various topics. And we're drafting legislation right now. And bill filing deadline will be in December. And whenever that time comes, representatives in the House can file up to 8 bills, and senators can file unlimited bills. And then, of course, this is only the second year of the legislative session. So all of the bills that we had last year that didn't get heard, maybe they died, they'll be eligible again. And so we're coming up on the next legislative session, and it's going to be here before we know it. It always begins the first Monday of February, and we'll be off to the races. So I'm just getting my bills together, and I've been out in the district a lot, visiting schools in Tulsa today, and really just enjoying hearing from people and listening to their concerns.
Okay, and that's why we appreciate you, and that's why, like I said, our representatives are out in the community doing work, even when they're not in actual session or in a fake emergency session or a real emergency session. You're 90 days before session. That's where you are right now. So, but thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for everybody who's joined us. And I will be back here tomorrow at 4:15.
All right. Thank you, Alicia. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye.